Sup Shredders, my name is Logan aka Spiderhands and welcome to an SP Patrons video today that I'm making for Andreas as part of their custom monthly music review. And if we switch over to here, we have ourselves a track by This Will Destroy You titled Threads off of their ST album. So we're going to listen through this from start to finish and we're going to hear what we think. I'm assuming that this is probably an instrumental track because there is a lack of lyrics here considering the amount of listens it's had, like 6 mil. They aren't doing badly, are they? But let's go. Let's do it. There we go, back at the start. Excellent. Fantastic combination of elements here. Sounds like a live performance, you know? Really nice combination of the guitar parts coming in at the center with like, or the beginning with the bass and drums leading in. Nice and round sounding with that, and need for further lead elements. Kind of somber and bittersweet sounding. Have we got a shaker on the left side? Great subtle little nuance there. We got some strings in there as well, dude. I love the way they kind of like, they roll around in it, and the mid-stage resonance there. It's wonderful. There's a great sense of warmth that comes from those. Or those guitars, I misinterpreted it. They might be guitars, they've got a weird oscillation effect on them. Great display of dynamic range here, comparing at the start to where we are now. It's great to have a new section at this point of the halfway. Like, we've had our 3 minutes, which is the typical track length of a song these days. And we were like, okay, we've had this development to a point where we're louder now, we've got all the instruments come in. How are we going to resolve and move past this? Because we can't just pull another crescendo, right? Sorry, I'm gonna go back a little bit. I was trying to find because I'm trying to pause less so that people can enjoy the tracks. I'm trying not to talk over it as much as I used to. Just because I know that sometimes I interrupt bits and I don't want people to think I'm not listening. But the constant nature of it, the floatiness, the reverbs, they're fantastic. No matter what the drums do, they just kind of poke in the mist. There's a real sort of sense of nostalgia, like you're being put in a cuddly blanket here. But I'll go back a little bit so we can enjoy that big part that just was about to start in. I mean, was this a bass distortion? Have they just put more fuzz on the guitars? I mean, it's just like they're really pushing the master meter on the studio stereo bus. Or rather, limiter on the master bus, should I say. Kind of like the epitome of instrumental noise rock, isn't it? Was a distorted bass. Okay, no, that was a dope track. Because this is the conclusion of my review of this track Threads by This Will Destroy You. What do I think this track is about? I think the gradual journey that we had going from the start where the guitar was very quiet and calm and a little bit bright, and a little bit of a bittersweet tone to it, to the end where everything was fuzzy and distorted and almost too sort of chaotic. I think that was someone gradually falling apart, the threads becoming unwound. That's my interpretation of what the story was about from what the music told me. Hopefully that's nearer to being correct. I'm not sure how else to see it. There was a lack of vocals, so there's no need to talk about those because it was an instrumental, and to be honest, I don't really think the song would have benefited from it. There was enough going on with the various guitar, bass, drum parts that you didn't need more. You didn't need more. And, you know, for a track that's 5.5 minutes, I think it was great use of real estate. I don't think this track would have worked if you hadn't had the slow build into that part at the halfway point where we had to switch to the groove there. And then, you know, we had that almost like a playful kind of dun, 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 that kind of rhythm there, those eighth note accents there on the offs and ons, to then go into absolute, complete, just absolute balls to the wall distortion of everything. Feisty and fiery and slamming against the limiter. It was ferocity at its core. It was phenomenal, really. The sound design here, the use of effects on the guitars and the basses, it was monstrous. It made the drums sound small, and that's not an easy thing to do in a mix, especially when the drums were as well recorded as they are. Part of that, I think, was due to the slow tempo, where we didn't really have a pace to it. We were just slowly marching towards our own self-destruction, and that's a wonderful thing. I think that this track capitalized on the title and epitomized the journey very well, and I think it's honestly, it's relatable. I can relate to it, and I'm sure a lot of other people will too. So I think this is potentially why it meant what it does to Andreas. Maybe they've experienced that feeling before, or someone else. I think a lot of people have. You know, life's not easy. Wonderful, beautiful music. There was not a note out of place. There were some bright majorish elements here with the arpeggios, but there was constant dissonance there and trepidation and a bit of suspense as well. So I get the feeling that the theme of the song made me feel. It made me feel like I was listening to someone say they were okay, continuing to say they were okay, and then they just came undone. And at the end, they finally got it out of their system, and they walked away from it. And hopefully they found peace with that. You know, they went through that hard space, the bell curve, top of the bell curve, and then things came down with that distorted bass. The reality set in, and they just, the pause, the end was acceptance. Or potentially it was more than that, because of course you've got 1-7. This is the middle track of the EP or the album, but still, great effort there. I don't think there's a note out of place. The arrangement was intoxicating and compelling from start to finish. Very impressed with that. The studio recording, mixing and mastering was absolutely sensational. I really enjoyed listening to it. I think that they had a great way of expressing themselves within their own performance, and you needed to have the recording, the tone of it, like the quality of it capture that element pristinely in order for that to be really heartfelt. And I liked the fact that it sounded like a live performance. It sounded like these musicians were in a room together, just playing their hearts out. There was a great clarity to instruments like the guitars, bass, and drums, but at the same time there wasn't, because things were so interconnected, whether it was through the reverb tails or the tightness of the compression on the master bus. It sounded like they were interlinked because there was a tightness there that was coding them together. It was bonding them. And usually I like distinction in a mix, but I think especially when you're playing with dynamic range and you're bringing the perceived loudness up like this, you're going to hit a limit where things can't go further than that. Part of what made it so effective is that they threw all that distortion, especially at that big part and that near the end, around the entirety of the stereo field. It was a wall of noise. And in addition to that, it was phenomenal to listen to just how well they played. Not only how well they played to that point, but also for the studio engineers to respect the fact they still needed to have that difference in the noise floor to the ceiling, and to be able to balance those two effectively is superb. I think that the leveling of the instruments was great. It's a ridiculous task really to expect someone to do a flawless mixing job on this. But I think part of the beauty of this is, while I think they mixed it incredibly well, it wasn't because it was a perfect mix in a way that was like sterile pop recording or something. It was a raw, unfiltered mess of sounds at times that reflected the tone of the track genuinely, and I'm really happy with it. It was definitely nice and loud, but it didn't pump. They still didn't have any sort of fundamental mistakes in the mastering stage. Great track. So this is my review of This Will Destroy You's song Threads off of their S&T album. Hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, please do go check out their various social medias and the Spotify page. Stay cool and stay safe. Please remember to support your local musicians and artists at this point in time, as they have more than ever thought crazy stuff going on in the world, and I'll catch you in the next SP Patrons video. Spiderhands Out.